Hello and welcome to Traders Classroom. Michael Madden with you. In today's video, we're going to take a look at Fibonacci extensions, sometimes called Fibonacci projections. But basically, we're going to look at the method of projecting a wave, i.e. within an impulse. We have a Fibonacci projection or extension for wave 3. And then within zigzags, we have a Fibonacci extension for the C wave. So these are very common Fibonacci extensions. So it's something that we need to get very used to doing, and we will be doing it on multiple time frames. So it's an excellent way to set up a trading opportunity, but also when we're trying to establish the structure of a pattern and the right look, etc. So let's first look at the example I have here in real time, where we're considering a fifth wave advance to be unfolding. So this is purple wave 5. Let's just quickly go to the daily work to give you some context, where we are looking higher in a still developing impulse for green wave 1. We favor 1, 2, extended third is in place, and now with a corrective pullback, 3 waves to 110.65, we're looking for wave 5 to get above 115.73. You notice we also have extensions here also, but let's first look at the third wave scenario. So the fact that we can count a leading diagonal for blue wave 1, and now we're considering or favoring that wave 2 has ended, we're looking higher in wave 3. So wave 3 must unfold as an impulse, and we're looking for to trade decisively above 114.19. But we also know with the guidelines of wave development that the third wave often extends, and a common relationship is that it will extend to 1.618 Fibonacci relationship with wave 1. So to do that, then we basically get our Fibonacci tool, which could be called extension, expansion, projection, and it's going to have 3 points of contact, where we take the origin of the move, which was 110.65, then we take the end of the move for the wave 1, and then the third point is the end of wave 2. And you'll notice that within my Fibonacci grid here, I have the 61.8%, 100%, and 161.8. So here, wave 3 will have traveled 0.618 times the length of wave 1. At 115.65, it will have traveled the same distance as wave 1. And at 161.8, it will have traveled the 1.618 relationship. So it's often worth noting that these levels, these are all part of the structure also, or could be part of the structure if you're right within the third wave, and the price action will often show respect to them. So whether it is the 61.8 may meet resistance here if this is wave 1 of 3, or even we could push through it, come back and use it as support. Same with the equality projection. And sometimes if the first wave has extended, or maybe if the fifth wave is going to extend, waves 1 and 3 will be of similar length. So it's worth noting the quality projection also. And even from a trading perspective, if we were to consider here the third wave forecast, well, at 112.11, yes, we are looking for price action to get up to 118, but ultimately there's going to be a lot of ups and pullbacks, advances, pullbacks within the way, and we could have multiple potential trading scenarios within this. So even at this juncture, if one was to say, well, we're trading at 112.88, I know that if wave 3 is unfolding, 112.11 must remain attacked, and if we got up to the 61.8 or equality projection. So they're interesting, or also worth noting. Another thing that we have to be careful of is having too much information on our charts also. So it's not feasible to have all these relationships on the chart at any one time. So it's good practice for us to have the common relationships, in this case being 1.618. But I'm also always aware of these scenarios. But you can see how they often line up with important junctures anyway. So we would be expecting this to be a recognized juncture, the wave 3 peak, and this also coincides with the equality projection of this forecast. So maybe this will be an area of resistance, but maybe just interim if this is as bullish as this wave count suggests. So that's an example of the third wave forecast, or the third wave projection or expansion. And let's just quickly look at the relationships that I had on the daily chart, because in this scenario, we are looking for higher in purple wave 5. And then the relationships that we're looking at here are that wave 5 is traveling the same distance as wave 1 is a common relationship. So take the distance traveled in wave 1, extend it from the end of wave 4. Just notice what I've done there is I have colored the Fibonacci expansion or projections in the same color as the wave degree that I'm working with. So this is very handy if you're using multiple projections to find clusters. You can relate the projection with the color of the wave degree you're working with. But you can see here the equality projection is below the wave 3 peak. So we're not going to forecast a truncation. So the next relationship we would look for is where wave 5 will have traveled 1.618 times the length of wave 1. Also, you can notice I've got the 2% or the 200% and the 261%. I'm not interested in these for the fifth wave projection, so I'll often just take these out and just use what I'm looking for, because again, we don't want to cluster or to have too much information on the chart. So and even in this case, I've decided to write in the relationship rather than have the projection out there. Then the other relationship I have here is where wave 5 may have traveled 0.618 times the length from waves 1 through waves 3. So here you can see I've projected it from the end of wave 4. Again, I have to adjust my Fibonacci colors because it's purple that I want to see within that wave degree. And this is another upside potential or target that we'll be looking at for the fifth wave. So that's a relationship we must be aware of also. Now, to go back to the intraday work, just to look at a zigzag pattern. So this was a fourth wave correction that we were monitoring. And just to get our Fibonacci expansion here, the most common relationship within this pattern is wave C will have traveled the same distance as wave A. So here under this zigzag scenario, you can see that we did have two equal lengths within the pattern. I have taken the channel off, but we would always have our channeling within the zigzag pattern. You can see that channel nicely. But to notice that it channeled nicely for the zigzag is one thing, but also to be aware of how price action breaks out of these channels. Common for price action to test the upper boundary, pullback. We all know that a three-wave pullback is a counter trend move. So in this case, another zigzag pattern for red wave 2, set up for a push higher in red wave 3. In real time, of course, we weren't counting this as a diagonal. We would have been considering 1, 2, 1, 2. But ultimately, the message was this market was setting up to push higher. So just to look at some other markets, or before we actually move from Euro US dollar, I have an example here of that, just to show it in real time where we were looking at the fourth wave pullback. So this is the daily chart back in May 7th, and we've got our Fibonacci retracements for the third wave. But the projections and expansions is what we want to talk about in this video. And you can see in this scenario where we were considering a triangle possibly completed at 113.81, and we're looking for price action to trust lower. So in real time, you're forecasting the equality projection, and it often gives us targets for potential trading scenarios, but ultimately the structure of the pattern that we're working with. And a 38.2% retracement, another relationship. So moving on to another chart, we can see that we did update the count. We didn't get a decisive breakdown, i.e. the trusting price action, and we were then allowing for ongoing corrective price action to complete a still developing triangle using a key level for lower. But at this juncture, we hadn't the end of wave B to work with, so we didn't have a Fibonacci expansion or projection. But from a trading perspective, to give us an idea, there's no harm when we could just take the distance traveled in wave A and then take a guesstimation of where wave B may end. Maybe be conservative and go up closer to your key level and then project it, and then you can see then if it fits your trading plan, etc. And here now is a few hours later where we see that price action started to trust down. Then we got a key level to work with at 113.20. And then from there, of course, we could calculate the expansion. So C equals A at 110.58, and giving us reason then to look lower, but more importantly, to working with the wave structure, common wave structures within the zigzag pattern. And here now is just an example of the push lower into that area, and we can see that we've got a sizable move higher in an impulsive manner, giving us reason to consider that the A equals C relationship is satisfied, and then breaking out of the channel, etc., is the bull's next objective. Key level to work with for the fifth wave forecast. So that's a decent example of the zigzag pattern in real time there for Euro US dollar. And just to look at some other scenarios, if we just look at dollar Swiss, I was looking at this morning now, where we had a nice example of here a double zigzag pattern where we had ABC for W, X wave that ended 82.45, and then ABC for wave Y, and then testing the Y equals A. So the common expansion here within the double zigzag, of course, is the same as a zigzag pattern, where we have equal distances within both of the patterns. And then another nice example showed up in dollar yen, where we had a zigzag pattern, A, and then here we had possibly a combination for wave C, but ultimately very corrective price action around that 144.50 area, and a push hard into complete wave C, but just shy of the equality relationship at 146.34. So these are guidelines, and they're not exact measurements that have to be adhered to within these patterns, but it's with the guidelines that we have to structure our forecasts, and it's with the guidelines then that we get the right look to these patterns. Of course, we will have other relationships like wave C may travel 0.618 times, but first I want to just go through the very common relationships, and at any time these are the relationships we need to be aware of, especially for the zigzag pattern and the third wave within the impulse. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye for now.